The Motor Dream podcast is recorded on Camaragal land of the Eora Nation. It always was and always will be the lands of the First Nations of Australia.
This is the Motor Dream podcast.
Welcome to episode 37 of the Motor Dream podcast, the show where we can dream just a little about what our dream garage would be if money was no issue whatsoever. I'm Connor McNally and thank you for joining me on the biggest weekend for Australian motorsport race fans. Yep, if you haven't noticed the influx of social media content and hype in the mainstream news by now, it's Bathurst 1000 time once again. It's where our Christmases, birthdays, New Year's and Easters are all rolled into one big week, culminating in the 68th running of Australia's great race, which kicks off at 11:45 this Sunday morning. And of the 54 drivers that will face the starter, one of them will be making his Bathurst 1000 debut, all whilst he's looking to go back-to-back championships in Porsche Carrera Cup Australia. I'll tell you more about my guest in just a moment. But first, here's the premise of what this is all about, especially for our new listeners to this podcast. I tell my guests that one day they wake up to discover that they've received a text telling them that they need to check their bank balance. They then open up the bank app and they suddenly discover they're instant billionaires. As soon as they discover their newfound fortune, they get an email from this mystery benefactor that tells them that they can spend anything that they like and they can buy any car, bike or machine that they want. There is a catch though. They are only allowed 3 cars, bikes or machines in their dream garage. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But as my previous guests have told me in the past, it is very difficult to decide what they would like to have in their dream garage. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast itself wherever you listen to your podcast, and be sure to leave a review and tell us what you think. Also, be sure to follow us on our socials, which we'll tell you more about at the end of the show. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this Sunday's Repco Bathurst 1000 will be the 68th running since it first began in 1960, and the 65th to be held at Bathurst since 1963. The first 3 races were held at Phillip Island between 1960 to 1962. Of the 54 drivers that will take part in this Sunday's edition of the Great Race, 6 of them will be rookies, and all of them in their 20s. And of those 6 rookies, my guest also happens to be not only the oldest to start this year's race at 26 years of age, but he is one that has been prolific in the world of Porsche one-make racing both in Australia and abroad. His name is Harri Jones. Harri will be making his Bathurst 1000 debut for Team 18 as co-driver to Anton DePasquale, and it's something that has been a long time coming for the 2 times and defending Porsche Carrera Cup Australia champion who hails from Queensland's Sunshine Coast. Jones has been a part of the Porsche racing pyramid since 2019, having successfully graduated from open wheelers in both Formula Ford and Formula 3. In fact, he tasted his first championship success winning the Australian Formula 3 Championship under the AASA banner. Switching to Porsches and to the Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge for McElrea Racing, Jones won the 2019 series on his first attempt and graduated to Carrera Cup Australia for 2020, though seat time would be severely restricted due to COVID until late 2021. But success quickly came the Queenslanders' way. He tasted his first Carrera Cup race win at Sandown at the end of 2020 and again won at the final round of the 2021 championship at Bathurst. This set him up for a breakout year in 2022, claiming his maiden championship for McElrea Racing. It also led to an overseas opportunity in the Porsche Supercup in 2023 for BWT Lechner Racing. In a highly competitive field supporting the Formula 1 calendar, Jones finished 9th overall and rookie vice champion. He also raced in Carrera Cup Germany during that year, and he achieved some decent results before deciding to return home and back to Carrera Cup Australia for 2024, now for Porsche Centre Melbourne. Success was immediate for him, taking out his second Carrera Cup Australia title with 6 round wins, 12 race wins, 18 podiums and 5 pole positions. This year, he's on track to go back-to-back and claim his 3rd Carrera Cup title, this time as an owner driver. A rarity in the contemporary world of professional motorsport. Away from motorsport, he's hands-on with his involvement in the family business, which not only includes running the Carrera Cup outfit, but also running 3 cars in the Porsche Sprint Challenge. On top of this, the family team are heavily ensconced in the historic racing scene and as such have an impressive car collection in their workshop, and you may see Harri on his socials from time to time driving one of the cars from the family collection. Although his first sporting exploits was racing downhill mountain bikes, motor racing has always been in the DNA of Harri and his family. In fact, his dad Peter was part of the Greenfield Mowers racing outfit that successfully won the 1995 Australian Sports Sedan Championship in the hands of Cameron McLean in an ex-Benson & Hedges BMW M3. That's a cool story in itself. When I recorded this interview with Harri, it was prior to the third round of Carrera Cup back in June this year. Jones was still leading the championship despite a rough weekend at the Australian Grand Prix, and he was looking forward to what lay ahead towards his supercars debut. And given that his race team is European by nature, his dream garage was very German. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my chat with Harri Jones. The two-time and defending Porsche Carrera Cup Australia champion Harri Jones, welcome to the Motor Dream podcast. It's great to have you on.
Great to be here, mate.
You're a very busy boy because not only are you running a car in Porsche Carrera Cup Australia, but you're also running 4 cars in the upcoming round of the Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge. Have you had time to stop and scratch yourself and think, where has the time gone so far in 2025?
Yeah, it's been a pretty chaotic year, to be honest. I can't believe we're already almost in June. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind year, but a lot of good things happening, and yeah, excited for what's to come as well. So Sprint Challenge next weekend, we're running 4 cars, and then straight into a Carrera Cup test after that, and then the back half of the year all kicks off.
And you're only 25 years of age, running one of the leading teams in the Porsche pyramid here in Australia. It's just crazy to fathom that you're doing your own thing. You've won 2 Carrera Cup championships for 2 different teams. You won for Porsche Centre Melbourne before they shut down in 2024. And then prior to that, you raced for McElroy Racing, won that in 2022. In between, you went off to do Porsche Supercup racing in Europe, where you supported the Formula One calendar. And then at the end of 2024, you formed your own team and became an owner-driver. It's a very rare commodity that you get to see owner-drivers in Australian motorsport, even professional motorsport worldwide. But you're bucking the trend of so many other operations that, have paid drivers and up-and-coming drivers doing their thing. You're, as I said, going against the grain and doing a very good job out of it.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I think, you're only as good as the team you have around you. And over the past few years, I've been so lucky to have some key people in my corner that make all this happen. And yeah, basically, once we got the news that Porsche Centre Melbourne were shutting doors at the start of the year, then we basically had 6 weeks to put a Carrera Cup team together and get to round 1. So in doing so, we were able to get some key staff from Porsche Melbourne. We got Matt Cook on board here. We've got all of the infrastructure we could get a hold of, and basically turn what seemed to be a negative into an opportunity. So there's silver linings to everything, and I'm so happy sort of where we've ended up here now.
No, it certainly hasn't affected you by any stretch of the imagination. You've currently leading the 2025 season, 4 wins so far. You won the first 3 races straight at Sydney Motorsport Park, supporting the Supercar Sydney 500. Then you go to the Australian Grand Prix and you win one of the 3 races. Didn't have the best of runs there because it was a very, I guess, congested program given the Australian Grand Prix. But you managed to, come away with at least a decent win across the Grand Prix weekend.
For sure, yeah. It was an up and down weekend at the Grand Prix. It was we actually hit the wall in practice 1, and we had about an hour to fix the car for qualifying. So you're always going to be on your back foot when you make a mistake like that early in the weekend. But yeah, as you say, to come away still with a race win, we're P4, I think, for the weekend. And if that's a weak weekend for us, then I think that goes to show you sort of the performance that we currently have. So Sydney was great to get there on the grid. Step 1 was a big achievement, just to, with everything going on in January and February, that was ticked a big box. And then to come out competitive and win the first 3 races was, very rewarding for myself and the entire team.
Next round is up in Darwin at Hidden Valley Raceway, and it's going to be your kind of weather, nice hot weather, and because you're a Queenslander, of course, from the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a very, very different atmosphere. Obviously, fast-flowing circuit. You got a lot of runoff. You don't have to worry about walls being so close to you, but at the same time, you can't let your opposition walk all over you. What's Darwin going to be like for you heading into the latter half of the season?
I'm excited for Darwin. It felt like an eternity since the Grand Prix, so I'm just excited to get back in the car and go racing again.
Yes.
But yeah, Darwin, it's a track that on paper looks quite simple, but you get there and it's actually very technical. It's a circuit that requires big commitment. It is fast and flowing. You need to have a good car to be fast around there. But at the same time, the racing is always good fun up there too. So yeah, we'll do plenty of sauna preparation in the lead up to it, get used to the heat, and yeah, can't wait to get back on track.
And in between that, you've got Bathurst and the Bend, which you're going to be busy during those particular weekends, running Carrera Cup and now doing the Enduro drive for Team 18 in the supercars, which is a great opportunity for you to race on probably one of the biggest stages in Australian motorsport, racing in the big Enduros. Are you excited for the opportunity that's going to come your way to race at Bathurst and potentially, you could step on top of the podium in your first Bathurst attempt?
100%. No, I can't wait. It's been a goal of mine since I've started in this sport to one day race the Bathurst 1000. And I've been working, so hard these past few years to get a deal together and make this happen. So, I'm counting down the days until we get to do laps in the supercar at Bathurst. And yeah, there's a lot of work to be done between now and then. Obviously, the cars are quite different to drive from a cup car to a supercar. So I'm currently just trying to be a sponge and soak up any and all information I can get from the team. And yeah, I think come Enduro season, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Have you had a chance to drive the Camaro as yet?
I have, yeah. We had an evaluation day in December last year down at the Bend. And then I also did a few laps at Sydney, did the ride day at Sydney. And then obviously we've got the QR test and QR ride day coming up as well. So yeah, I think, there's not a bunch of laps, but I think there'll be enough to become comfortable and confident behind the wheel.
What are the main differences that you've noticed already from driving the Carrera Cup car to a supercar? Yes, they are different in a number of ways, but in terms of like the mechanical and also the driving aspect of those cars, what are the differences that you've noticed straight away?
Well, for one, the lap speed is very similar. So we get around the track pretty much at the same time. So from a physical perspective, the feeling of the G-force, the feeling of the brake pedal, that all feels very similar. But the biggest difference is, number one, the tyres. A Michelin tyre can hang on all day. You can drive it at 110% and it never seems to really fall off the cliff. Whereas you get onto a Dunlop and from lap one, you have to be conserving tyres really. So you have to always be mindful of the heat you're putting into them, the load you're putting into them, to make sure that you're not only going to be a hero on one lap, but you can put together a string of 20 fast laps in a race stint. So that's going to take a little bit to get used to. But then from a driving style perspective, the cup cars are so stiff and there's a lot of downforce, there's big sticky tires. You can basically hit the brake pedal as hard and as fast as you want. And all of the performance is on that initial application, whereas a supercar, it's a lot softer. You get a lot more body roll. And as the weight transfer goes from the back to the front, you have to basically ramp up the brake a little bit slower. Obviously, you have a sequential shifter. We've got to use a heel toe in a supercar, whereas the cup car, I left foot brake. So yeah, there's a few pretty key differences that I'm going to have to get my head around and also switch between, when we're doing double duties at Bathurst and the Bend. But I think the fact that they are different means that I can basically put my supercar hat on, drive a supercar like a supercar, and then vice versa, do it for a cup car. So yeah, it'll be a challenge, but yeah, with the right people around me, I think it's all going to be good.
Have you had a chance to chat with Anton, because you'll be driving with Anton DePasquale at Bathurst?
Yep.
Have you had a chance to just sit down with him and have a decent conversation on how to approach the Enduros coming up?
Not specific on the Enduros just yet. He's been at all of our days when I've been in the car. He was at the evaluation day last year, and obviously I've been at Sydney with him. So he's been so helpful getting up to speed and sort of giving me the tips and tricks that he's learned over, the 8 or 9 years that he's been in the sport. So I think together we're going to be a great team, like even down to the fact that we're pretty much the same size. We use the same seat insert, same steering wheel and pedal position. So yeah, I think it's just meant to be.
That's an added advantage to have that same height and same driving position. You don't have to worry about adjusting seats and the like.
Exactly. I think for driver changes, there's just less things to do, which means less things to go wrong. And ultimately, we can probably do these changes even faster as well. So yeah, it's all the little one percenters that's going to make up a good race. So yeah, we're just working to make sure we've got it all covered.
Did yourself ever imagine that you would be in the position where you're not only running your own team? Well, did your younger self, would your younger self ever imagine that you'd be running a race team at 25 years of age and also be racing in the supercars as an endurance driver? Would your younger self even imagine this kind of
Not
thing
at
happening?
all. No, no way. No. I think when you are younger, you're so pigeonholed into one goal, and that goal for me was to get into being a professional racing driver. And
Mm.
throughout the years, you become aware of all of these different avenues you can take within the sport. And when I was over in Europe in 2023, I was just a racing driver. I was racing. I had 20 race weekends. We had 20 something test days. I was always in a car doing something, going somewhere. And I realized then that I love that part, but I also love being on the other side of the fence. I love developing drivers and engineering the cars, and I'm fascinated by how these all work. So yeah, I'm living my dream right now, being able to do both. And yeah, I'm hoping that we can manage this for years to come.
I want to touch on the program that you got with the Porsche Sprint Challenge shortly, because you won that challenge competition in 2019 and very successfully as well, following in a very similar path to what Matt Campbell did when he won it back in 2014, which seems like a lifetime ago to a lot of people. But when you did Porsche Supercup, which is obviously supporting the Formula One calendar, I mean, that's a big stage in itself, racing supporting the Formula One calendar, and you've got 8 weekends throughout the year. You actually had a very, very decent run. You finished all but one race, and your highest result was the final round in Monza. So
Yeah,
you didn't disgrace yourself by any means, and you finished in the top 10 in the championship and the highest rookie. Well, I think vice champion to the
vice
rookies.
champion by
Yeah,
1 point. Yeah.
yeah. It must have kind of sucked a little bit that you just missed out on winning the top prize, but still, all the same, top 10 finish in the championship is still a very decent performance.
Yeah, I was quite proud of my performance in Europe. It was never going to be an easy year. Like going over there, it's such a different environment to race in, and obviously you're up against drivers that they've been on those circuits since they were 12 years old back in Formula 4 days. So
Mm.
it was going to be an uphill battle trying to become familiar with the new team, the new racing program, all of these new tracks for me. But yeah, I think once I found my feet and sort of learned the lay of the land, it all sort of started to piece together. And yeah, that final round in Monza, to be so close to an outright podium, finishing P4 and just missing on that rookie title, it was bittersweet. We still took that rookie win on the weekend. But I think looking back on that year, that I developed so much as a driver. I developed so much as a human. Like the experience I have now within the sport, it set me up, I think, for a long-term career back here in Australia. So yeah, it's a year I'll always cherish and look back on with fond memory.
Was there any difference between the cars that you race here in Australia compared to the Super Cup cars in Europe?
No, not at all. And that's sort of the best thing about cup cars is that no matter where you are, they're all the exact same. We all follow the same rules. The only difference for Super Cup was that we only get one race across a weekend. So we get one practice session, one qualifying, and one race. So it puts a lot of pressure and emphasis on every single lap you're turning. And one DNF there can basically ruin your whole year because it's effectively 8 races across the entire year. So that took a little bit to get used to. Like a slightly different mindset you have to take to the races, because it's not really about winning every race. It is just about being there and finishing as high as you possibly can. So yeah, it was a challenge, but yeah, I think one that definitely benefited my career.
What was the best track that you enjoyed racing on? Because there's like 7 tracks that you had the opportunity to race on, and that was, of course, Spa, Zandvoort, Monza, the Hungaroring, Silverstone, A1 or Red Bull Rings, that's now known,
Yeah.
and of course Monaco, the granddaddy of them all. Which of the tracks did you enjoy the most?
Oh, that's a hard one. Actually, we raced a bunch of other tracks in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany because we
Oh,
did
of
a
course,
dual
you did that
program
series too.
in
Yes,
2023.
yeah.
So we raced at smaller, more unknown tracks like Lausitz Ring, Saxon Ring, all of these like proper old school German tracks.
Mm.
I think my favorite would have been Spa. Like that's everyone's going to say that when you get to Spa, and it's the atmosphere of that entire track, and you go into the local towns and everyone's just loving motorsport and loving cars. That was a awesome track to drive. But then the Monaco event as well was really cool. Like to be there at one of the biggest Formula One events of the year, to see the harbour full of boats, full of fans. I don't think there was any track I didn't like, to be honest.
That's interesting you say that. Because I know Monaco, it's like a very tight track and you can't make a mistake. You've got to be so inch perfect because you've got the guardrails all around you. And, of course, you're on the harbour. Were you petrified of trying to damage the car, given the prestige of Monaco?
Not particularly. Like Monaco, it felt like a more forgiving street circuit than
Really?
something
Okay.
like the Gold Coast. Like Gold Coast and Adelaide, all of the walls are rock solid concrete, whereas Monaco, a lot of them are guardrails, so you can actually brush them and not have too much of a consequence in the Cup car. They're built quite strong.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think being an Aussie and having so many street races locally here, it sort of prepared me better, I think, than the Europeans that don't do any street racing until they go somewhere like Monaco. So, yeah, it was a daunting track. It's definitely not easy by any means, but I think what we do here in Australia is actually more difficult.
Well, given the locations, Townsville, Gold Coast, Adelaide, I mean, and Melbourne, of course, I mean, they're
Exactly.
like it's a regular thing to race on street circuits in Australia. So I guess you're right. You are preparing yourself for doing things like racing on street circuits around the world. It puts you in
Yeah,
good stead.
certainly.
What did you make of Spa? You said you really enjoyed racing at Spa. Was it like Mount Panorama for you in terms of the atmosphere, in terms of like the undulations? Did it feel like a Bathurst for you, or was it
It was.
different?
It was like a more open Bathurst.
Right.
Like it's a faster circuit with more flowing corners, and yeah, it's probably the only track we go to that has similar levels of undulation. And going up through Eau Rouge and Radillon, you get airborne over the top of that crest in a cup car. So
Mm.
whenever you have four wheels off the track, anywhere in the world, that's going to be a bit of a thrill.
Mm.
But yeah, Spa in itself, I don't think there's anywhere quite like it. And the racing in the Cup car there is also second to none. So yeah, I was lucky enough to not only race Supercup there, but also Carrera Cup Germany and do a fair few practice days as well. So I've done plenty of laps around that place.
What about the German tracks? You mentioned Sachsenring, which has been a MotoGP track for years. The Nürburgring, of course, Hockenheim. I mean, there's some really cool places around there. Norrisring as well. Did you get to race the street circuit around Norrisring?
No, we didn't race Norris Ring, but we
Oh,
raced all the other ones you were speaking about. So yeah, they're all shorter, tighter tracks, similar to what we have here in Australia,
yeah.
and very bumpy as well. So Laos Ring especially, that's basically like the Euro Speedway. So
Oh,
half
yes,
of the
yes,
track is
yes.
the speedway, and then the other half is this infield, which is pretty wide open and bumpy. You have to have some big commitment through there. That was a really fun track. Hockenheim was cool. Like it was a more simple circuit, but the tarmac there was really abrasive. So it's similar to Bahrain or tracks like that have just massive tire deck.
Mm.
So racing there was quite exciting. Sachsenring was a different track altogether. The whole philosophy to drive around there, every single corner is so long that most of the track you're just coasting into a corner, which in a cup car you very rarely ever doing. So yeah, they all had their perks and different ways to go about it. But yeah, they were all a lot of fun.
You started your career going back 2015 in the Queensland Formula Ford Championship, and then you went on to race the Australian Formula Ford Series, which by then it fluctuated between racing with AASA and then with Motorsport Australia, but it was the national series for Formula Ford. And you were very lucky to learn your craft in that series, which remains still one of the leading, I guess, development categories in Australian motorsport. It's one of those classes that still has a very, very strong following more than 50 years on. How much of that really influenced your driving and influenced your career?
I think a massive amount, to be honest. Formula Ford, it's a car that teaches you all of the fundamentals on how to drive a race car. They've got small tires, they've got plenty of power. The racecraft you learn there, there's obviously big consequence if you come together with other cars. So you have to drive smart to be successful in Formula Ford. So everything I learned there has applied to any car I've driven since. And still to this day, I'm always watching Formula Ford and looking at the results and seeing who's coming through the ranks, because I know that success in that category is going to mean that you're going to have success in the categories following. So, yeah, I firmly believe it's one of the development categories worldwide. And I hope that it stays on and it, builds in its success for years to come.
Absolutely. And then you went on to do Formula 3, Australian Formula 3, which is now
Mm-hmm.
AU3, which Tim Ackrow has taken over the running of that category, and that's going to be unveiled in the coming weeks and months. But prior to that, it was known as the Australian Formula 3 Championship. It lost its CAMS
Gold
credit,
Star.
the Gold Star some years ago, but it went on
Yeah.
to live on under the AASA banner. But it still gave you an opportunity to race on a national stage, running in the Australian Motor Racing Series, and you actually won that championship in 2018, which is pretty massive, family-run operation as well, much like what you've done with Carrera Cup Australia. How much of that really brought your family together to really support you and really get behind you in your racing career, particularly at that point in time when you were trying to find your way in the sport?
It was awesome. Yeah, to have that car, a Formula 3 car is such a complicated and awesome bit of machine. Like they are such fast vehicles, and the amount of downforce and aerodynamics they've got, even just to drive one of them full stop is so much fun. So yeah, to be running that as a family run team, we had the likes of Bruce Jenkins engineering the car. We had James Winslow, who was my driver coach back then. He had plenty of experience in all different types of machines, especially fast open wheelers. So the team we put together was really great. And the competition that year, we were racing against Cam Shields and Errol Gilmore's team, who had been in Formula 3 for years. And, we pushed each other so hard down to the final race that I think every single race weekend we went to, one of us would have set the outright lap record of the circuit or the Formula 3 lap record. So as much as it wasn't like a dense 30-car field, the fact that there was Cam and I going, not head-to-head all year long, taught me a bunch. And to have that wings and slicks experience early in my career, that was fantastic as well.
Geez, I remember when Cameron was racing, like he was 15 or 16 a few years prior to that, and he was just a young kid coming up through the ranks. He was driving an older spec Gilmore car, and he was learning the trade. And he's done all right for himself. He's done very well since those days in Formula 3.
Yeah, he's a freakishly talented young guy, and I think you can see that in Formula 4. He also was successful in Formula 4. And then also in Formula 3, and I think now he's ended up in the US driving all sorts of different GT and prototype cars. So, props to him.
Yeah, it's really cool. And actually, I think he's been racing in IMSA. That's what he's been doing in the last few years, racing in the United States, racing LMP cars, which is pretty massive to race in America in sports car racing. That's quite cool, actually. Actually, you mentioned before James Winslow, and James obviously had a long association with Formula 3 in Australia and did very well out of it. What's James like as a driver coach? Have you still been able to stay in touch with him to this day to get some advice in terms of your career?
Yeah, funnily enough, I actually caught up with him 2 weeks ago in Sydney. He moved back to Europe before COVID, so about 5 years ago. And he's got a great program over there running a bunch of different clients and cars. And I think he's probably one of the best driver coaches around. His way of explaining different concepts, and if he can also read when someone doesn't understand what he's saying, and he can reshape what he's trying to say, and really get the point across of how to drive a race car fast. So he taught me a whole bunch. He's still I still get along with him really well. We caught up in Dubai a couple of years ago, and he's living a pretty cool life, just driving race cars all the time and working alongside some pretty awesome people.
That's really cool. Was there much difference between racing a Carrera Cup car and a Formula 3 car? Yes, they're physically different and they're technically different, but is there any similarities in terms of the aerodynamics, maybe even the mechanical grip with those cars? Was there anything that carried across from driving a Formula 3 car into a Carrera Cup car?
The fundamentals of how to get a car around a racetrack, that applies no matter what you're in. So they've all got 4 round black tires. They've all, and it's all about weight transfer and trying to optimize, the fastest flowing line through the circuit. So I think the fact that Formula 3 was so fast, to jump out of a Formula 3 car into a Porsche, you're going on average probably 10 seconds slower per lap. So I was actually used to going faster, which meant I had a bit more mental processing time to really think about what the Cup car needed. And I think that's what helped me find my feet early on. the biggest difference was actually then just the heat that you have to cope with in a touring car. It's obviously in a closed cockpit. In a Formula 3 car, it's all open. You get the breeze in the cockpit, but a GT car, you get none of that. So you just end up sweating for an hour long and getting really tired. So yeah, different cars, as you say, but a bunch of different things that you can take from and implement.
In terms of your fitness, when you started to drive the Sprint Cup, like the Sprint Challenge car, did you have to change your thinking in terms of your fitness, knowing that you're in a closed cockpit, you're not going to get much airflow, and obviously you're going to be, losing a lot of sweat and potentially more body weight as a result. Did you have to change your thinking in terms of your fitness to try and cope with that?
For sure. Like in Formula 3, I was focused on getting, strong and getting the muscles set up to be able to cope with the G-force because it is quite a demanding car to drive. And even the steering wheel is so heavy, like you're always working physically quite high to drive it F3. The Cup car is easier in that respect, but then the heat is a lot more intense. So yeah, I had to change my fitness approach to be more comfortable in those hot scenarios and basically learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah, so that was probably the biggest difference. I had to do a lot more sauna work. Go do long runs with tracksuits on, so you just end up sweating and trying to recreate the same sort of scenario that you'll have in the car. And to this day, that's still sort of my same approach. You're just trying to make sure that when you are towards the end of the race in a hot, sweaty environment, that you still have the mental clarity and focus to drive at 100% and not go over the edge, if you know what I mean.
Where did the opportunity to race Sprint Challenge come up for you back in 2019? Because you did do Formula 3, won that championship, and you probably reached at that point the top point of open wheeler racing in this country, given that there's not much other than, what was then S5000, which has since now disappeared. But where did that opportunity come up for racing in the Sprint Challenge in 2019?
After Formula 3, we looked at all of the different options that you could take for the next step in my career. And some of those were going overseas and pursuing an open wheel pathway. We were looking quite heavily at Japan and trying to get into Super Formula. There's also the Super GT programs over there that are pretty awesome. And then obviously the European Formula cars as well. So it was something that, we were interested in, but just trying to justify the expense and seeing if, it just wasn't going to be possible. And even someone like me, I'm a bigger guy. I have to, I was struggling almost to fit in a Formula 3 car back then. I've got wide shoulders and I'm not built like a small Formula driver these days.
Do I dare ask how tall you are?
I'm 5'11". So
okay.
I'm not particularly tall, but maybe, I'm a little bit too wide to try and fit in the Formula car full time. So I'd known Andy McElrea since I started in Formula Ford. His son Hunter and I, we basically started in Queensland Formula Ford in the same year. So Andy was one of the first guys I actually ever met in the sport. So I followed his team and what they were doing from day one. At that time, Matt Campbell was in Carrera Cup. I saw him go through the ranks and I saw what the Porsche platform can do for a young up-and-coming driver. So, that was sort of proof in the pudding that it was a viable and attractive option. So, basically we picked up the phone, gave Andy a call, and a few weeks later did a test day in a Cup car and fell in love with it. So, never looked back once I got in a Cup car, that's for sure.
And Hunter's done a very good job for himself too. He's now racing in the United States. So, you've both come from the same stable and you've both gone on to do some great things in your career. Are you happy with what Hunter's done over in the United States? Because he's done pretty well for himself.
He's done fantastic. I really want to see him in an IndyCar.
Same.
Like he's done one race, I think, last year. But what he's had, the success he's had in LMP2 and all the cars he's driving is pretty awesome. And, he had a great Indy Lights career. And I think, there's so many Aussies around the world doing such awesome things, and he's definitely up there.
Does it pain Andy a little bit that you're running your own team now and you're competing up against him, or is he happy that you've taken that path of becoming an owner driver?
I don't know. We'll find out. But I think he's a great guy. The entire McElrea team are awesome, and they've run such a great team for upwards of 15 years. So that's proof in the pudding that what they're doing is great. So there's a lot of shit talking in the Porsche paddock, and we all enjoy what we're doing, we're all having fun. But yeah, I think any competition is competition, full stop.
Yeah, and you look at the names that are competing in Carrera Cup Australia and the teams that are competing in Carrera Cup Australia. And I don't mean to brag a little bit on some of the drivers and teams, but I mean you look at Sonic. They're in there as well. Marcus Flack, Angelo Mazouris. You've got Ash Seaward Motorsport in there. You've got the Shahins, who have been in the class in the Pro-Am division for many years. You've got Ram Motorsport, McEnroe Racing, Melbourne Performance Centre. They've been around for a very long time in many different facets of the sport. And now Earl Bamber Motorsport. And Earl's, of course, been part of the Porsche fraternity for many, many years. So there's some seriously good teams in there, and the driver caliber is incredible. Like David Russell, Dale Wood, Danny Studdard, who's a Pro-Am driver for many years, Oscar Target. You look at Jackson Wallace, Dylan O'Keefe is in there as well. I mean, there's so many names in there, like so much talent. I mean, the talent depth is so wide in Carrera Cup Australia.
It is, yeah, and that's what makes it such an attractive category as well. Like, unless you're performing at your A game, unless the team's bringing their A game, you're not going to do well. And I think that's what makes it so rewarding when you do have those weekends that go your way. If it was easy, it's no one's going to do it. But the fact that it is hard is what makes it. It's what makes you always come back for more.
Where did your love of cars first begin for you? Because you grew up on the Sunshine Coast. In fact, you grew up in Booderham, and that's where the Bowden family are based. Of course, they've got their well-known private museum that they've got their fantastic collection of cars. So where did that love of cars first come from when you were growing up?
Like my whole family are big car nuts. And I think that's from, when I was 3 years old, Dad would take me for a drive and I'd fall asleep in the passenger seat and he would enjoy driving through the mountains himself in his tool cars. And it wasn't really until I was 14 that I actually ever saw a race car.
Really?
The minute that I saw a race car in the flesh was basically love at first sight. So yeah, as you say, the Bowdens are local here on the sunny coast. The Sunshine Coast car community in itself is very dense. There's some awesome garages and collections around here. But yeah, it's just been anything 2 wheels or 4 wheels that is fast and has a motor. Our whole family gets around.
That's really cool. What was the first race car that you saw that you went, oh my God, this is heaven. This is what I want to do?
Well, believe it was actually a Formula Ford. It was
really?
a gold Spectrum. Yeah, it would have been like a late 90s Spectrum Formula Ford. Oh. And it was one that my dad bought. He raced before I was born. So he did a bunch of Formula Ford racing. He did some Formula 2 here in Australia for the Gold Star. He did some Group A sports sedan stuff as well. He actually bought the Benson and Hedges Group A M3 and drove with Cameron McLean in some sports car events.
Really?
So,
really?
Yeah, he's just been a car nut since he was really young.
So you would have known Cameron McLean as you were growing up a bit.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so I had posters of Cameron on my wall, and he was always signing posters and giving them to me when I was growing up. So yeah, there's been like a intertwined motorsport, family growing up, but didn't really have the full experience until I was in my teens.
See, I wasn't aware that your dad was involved with Cameron's career at that point in time, because I remember the M3, because I remember it raced in Group A and then it became a sports sedan, like no modifications. It just came straight out of Group A racing, and Cam bought the car, and then he went on to win the 95 Australian Sports Sedan Championship, which is like just mind blowing. Like he did so well with that car against so much more powerful machinery, and probably the weather helped in a number of ways.
But, especially at Sandown, and they had the best tyres and the perfect car for any wet weather. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
Dad was quite heavily involved in that whole program, and it was Cameron and his dad John McLean who ended up being team manager at Triple Eight and all these sort of awesome things in his own career. We've been sort of in the background for a while, and then now I come to the front.
That is crazy. I did not know that. I mean, I knew of the M3, but I did not know that your father was involved in that. That's a really cool story. Is that something that he's very proud of, that he was able to be a part of a national championship victory for Cameron McLean back in the day?
Yeah, he is. And I think, when that specific car actually came back on the market a few years ago, and it still races here in Heritage Touring Cars, and I think it took Dad a lot of convincing not to buy that car because he loves it so much. But he's got a pretty cool collection of his own. He's got the early JPS Group A M3. He's got a couple of 2007 HRT supercars, a couple of old Formula Holdens, and they're all race ready, good to go. And he still loves getting behind the wheel, and he's actually quite talented as well. So yeah, it's awesome fun going to racetracks with that.
I know you've driven a couple of those cars, and you've put the hot laps up on your social media. Which of those cars do you actually like driving?
I like driving all of them. My favourite was actually he owned the McLaren M8E Can-Am car.
Ooh.
He no longer owns it because I think Mum realised how dangerous it was and forced him to sell it. But it was a 850 horsepower beast that only weighs about 800 kilos.
You
So
can
I drove
imagine
that.
you can imagine the power to weight ratio and that would be
Oh,
off the
it's
scale.
incredible. So that literally, blew me away how fast that thing was. And it had early 70s safety, early 70s brakes,
Yeah.
early 70s tires. But I think it gave me a new appreciation for what sort of those pioneers of motorsport did back in the day. So that thing was freakishly fast. But yeah, I think I love the history of motorsport as well, and to have these sort of historic cars just behind this wall here. Whenever you come to work, it's nice cars to walk past.
Other than the cars that you're racing in Carrera Cup and the Porsche Sprint Challenge, how many cars have you got in the actual team garage?
Well, as part of our facility here, we have a car storage facility as well. So we've got classic and race storage, which has been running for about 10 years now. As part of that, we do normal servicing, restorations, and whatnot. And then we also have the race team in the same facility. So
Wow.
right now here, we've probably got about 60 something cars. Not obviously not all of the cows. The majority are customer cars. But yeah, there's some pretty awesome machines.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. Like, is there a lot of stress on as a family to make sure that they're all secure and everything, and having to keep
It
the
is.
insurance up?
Yeah, the security is critical. But then, the staff that we also employ here are, they're all master technicians from, they've got a big background and very skilled technicians themselves. So we always make sure that we're taking the utmost care on every single car that comes through the facility. And yeah, I think it's just a pleasure to be able to work on these machines.
No, that's really cool. I don't think you could ever escape being around cars, given your family background. Did you have much choice? Did you do any other sports in the meantime as you were growing up, or did cars eventually happen?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I've got two older brothers, and my oldest brother grew up sailing. My middle brother grew up surfing and went on to have a professional career surfing and traveled the world doing that. And then I actually grew up mountain biking. So
Oh, really?
we all sort of had our different sports, but then it was, as I say, when I was in my teens, that I found the love for motorsport, and to this day now, all of us three brothers love motorsport, and we all try and get out on the track at least once a year together, and yeah, all enjoy the fun.
That's really cool. And I see you got a wedding ring. You're obviously married. Does
Yeah.
your wife follow the interest in cars as much as you do as well?
Not to the same extent, no, nowhere near. But no, she loves the cars, and she, when I was in Europe, she came over and spectated at a few Formula One events, and I think, yeah, she appreciates how much I love them at the very least, and supports what I do.
That's really good. Well, I know my wife. She's not into cars per se, but she does like Fords a little bit. So,
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
she understands Formula One a little bit as well through my interest. So she gets it to
Perfect.
some extent. So yeah, she's very similar to your wife. She follows it to some degree, but she supports what we do. So
It's
it's
pretty funny. Like Emily will sometimes tell me the results of the latest Formula One race, and she has her opinions on what's going on. So maybe she's coming around and finding the love for the sport, but yeah, definitely maybe not quite as obsessed as me.
yeah, I think there's a few of us in the sport that are a bit obsessed with Formula One right now. Actually,
Yeah.
speaking of which, you were very lucky to be, I guess, on the same sphere as the likes of Oscar Piastri and until recently Jack Doohan, racing on the biggest stage in the world in Formula One. And now we've got in the current season, we've got F1 Academy, Joe and Ciccone, Anagnostiadis, who, they're representing the Australian flag in F1 Academy. I mean, it's a great time for Australians to be on the world stage right now, outside of, like, we obviously got to include the likes of Matt Campbell. He's racing in IMSA and, of course, the FIA World Endurance Championship. We're
Yeah.
very lucky right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's luck or just the fact that what we have here in Australia develops us so well to compete around the world. And, it's not only motorsport. I think you look at any sport, even in the Olympics, and for a country of only 20 million or 25 million, we develop and produce so much talent that, was at the top of a variety of different sports. So, yeah, to be on the Formula One circuit and see Oster come through the ranks, to see his success now with McLaren, it was pretty awesome to, rub shoulders with him and a bunch of other Formula One drivers as well.
Lastly, before we move on, you've got some really good talent coming through the Porsche Sprint Challenge, which you won in 2019 for McElroy Racing. Now you're nurturing, as I said, a few of those talents coming through. You've got Ramu Farrell, who's driving the 888 machine. You've got Andrew Georgiadis, and you've got a young Kiwi rookie making his debut this year in Hunter Robb, and he's starting to make some inroads on his career, impressing quite a few people. Well, what's it been like to have those guys in your team and learning the ropes of driving Porsche one-make racing?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. They're such a great bunch of guys to work with and be around. And, not only do we have success on track, but we also love going racing together on these weekends. And Andrew and Ramu, they're super competitive in the Pro-Am division. They're currently sitting 1 and 2 in the championship. And to have Hunter Robb come through, he's an up and comer for sure. Like, he's got so much talent, and just seeing his data and how he's driving the car. Once a few things start to click in his brain, I think he's going to be a real force to be reckoned with. So, yeah, I think every single weekend that he's going out, he's getting better and better. Once we tune up a bit of his qualifying performance, I think the racing performance he's already got down pat. So it's just the little things now that he's got to get his head around, and there'll be a race win or many in the near future, I think.
This is the Motor Dream Podcast.
We know you love cars. You grew up around cars. Your family's been involved in motorsport for a very long time. Well, I want to know a little bit more about what makes you tick as a car person, Harry. So I'm just going to dive into your psyche a little bit and just find out a few little things. It's not brain surgery, but we'll find out a little bit more. I want to know the first car you drove when you were growing up.
It was a little Audi A3.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's very...
So it was a hand-me-down. Like, as I said, I got 2 older brothers. So my oldest brother drove that, gave it then to my middle brother, and then finally me. And it was efficiently and very much thrashed before I drove
it. By thrashed, you mean it did a lot of miles, or did they do...
Oh, yeah. And a lot of hard miles and a lot of, front-wheel drive skids and all sorts that my brothers are up to in that thing.
No all-wheel drive quattro stuff in that thing?
No, that was next. Car.
Well, what was the first car you owned then?
That was, the second car was an Audi S3. So I upgraded because the A3 imploded. It actually had a spark plug drop into the engine and basically it broke the car off pretty much. So got a good deal, funnily enough, for an S3.
Yeah.
And had that for, a very long time. I think I put 200,000 Ks on that car. So that was a lot of fun, that thing.
What have you got right now?
An Audi RS4.
Ooh.
Is
that with the
starting to go up and up?
I can see a trend of pattern here. You love your Ingestalt machines. You love your Audis. That's.
Well, I had to give the I was driving a Porsche Macan for 18 months because when I was driving for Porsche Melbourne, they provided me a business car. I fell in love with that Macan GTS, and when I had to give it back, it was a sad day. But
I bet
the RS4 is, it's pretty close.
Is it got the 4.2 litre V8 in it?
It's the 3.9 V6 bi-turbo.
Ooh,
yeah.
Well, that would go hard.
Oh,
I was expecting the 4.2 V8.
I think that was the previous generation had the V8. So This has it's actually, funnily enough, the same engine that's in the Macan GTS, the exact same. So it spits out about 500 horsepower. Got the Quattro driveline and station wagon, which is a good family car. It's my excuse, but a whole lot of fun to drive as well.
Good future family car, I'd say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool stuff. Do you remember the first road trip you remember going on?
The first one that comes to mind is actually a sailing trip that for my oldest brother when he was competing, going up north to Bolland. That's probably the first trip I can remember. But no, that's about it.
How long ago was that?
Oh, man, I would have been like 4 or 5 years old, I reckon.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's a good trip up to Bowen. It's not bad.
Yeah. Plenty of mangoes up there.
No, yes, absolutely. Do you remember the first time you changed a tyre?
It was at the gym one day. I finished a workout, came out, and the tire was flat, so I had to put the spare tire in. So yeah, that would have been when I was just on my P plates, 17.
With the A3 Audi?
The A3, yeah. Four cars.
Okay. What about the music you like to listen to on a road trip? What's the kind of music you listen to?
Recently, I've actually just been putting it on the Spotify DJ, and it picks the music for me. So I don't really have like one genre I'm into. It's all sorts of different things. I just like seems like I just like sound.
Anything that floats your boat, whatever it
Exactly.
plays. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. What about eating in cars? Yes or no?
Eating, yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
All right.
Multitasking.
Did you get your license first go?
I did, yes.
Oh, I'm jealous
Yeah.
of you. In the A3?
No, it was actually I got a manual license, so I had to borrow like a driving school car to do the test in a manual. So it was a little Mitsubishi Lancer.
Yeah, it's a big step down, isn't it, from an Audi to a
Yeah.
Mitsubishi? Actually, I'm going to ask you, manual or auto, what's your personal preference?
Manual.
Is the RS4 a manual, or is it the...
No, unfortunately not. It's PVK. Yeah.
well, actually, what do you prefer when you drive? Obviously, manuals you're preferred to, but given that manuals are kind of a dying art now, what do you prefer to drive? With paddle
I think
shift or...
like as an everyday car, like I would prefer an auto with the paddle shift. But for a weekender, like to get a 911 ST or something, like all of these newest cars with the manual gearbox are pretty cool. So yeah, I think especially for the road, like PDK is faster. But if you're trying to drive a car fast on the road, you're going to be trying to kill someone or get a speeding ticket. So to have the emotion of a manual gearbox and combine that with the screaming flap sits at 9,000 RPM, there's nothing quite like it.
What's the one thing you wish people would appreciate more in cars, particularly those in the current, that drive everyday automatics?
The naturally aspirated engine is pretty cool. Or just a gas-powered engine, full stop.
You're not a fan of electrics?
No, look, I like them. But I think, yeah, I don't think that the petrol engine should go anywhere.
Agreed. As much as I know your EVs are going to be the thing, it'll be, they're not going to go away. It would be a shame one day if we lose the naturally aspirated, combustion
Exactly.
engine. All right, the best car that you've owned.
The best car?
Yes, it can be a race car, it can be a road car, it can be anything.
Oh, I'd have to say my current Carrera Cup car
Yeah, of course.
is my favorite. That's I've had the same chassis, or no, I haven't had the same chassis. I've had the same chassis number since it was new in 2022. Unfortunately, we did do a body show in Adelaide last year, so it's basically like granddad's apps. It's had everything replaced, but it's still the same car. So, yeah.
Did you buy that car from Porsche Centre Melbourne when they shut down? Did you carry the car over?
No, we actually owned this car. We bought this car when the 992s first came into the country back in 22. So it's the same car that I drove in McRae Racing. And then, went to Porsche Melbourne and now back here under Jones Motorsport.
Perfect. It works out well for you. You didn't have to try and source another car to keep yourself racing. That's really
Exactly
that's a
right.
good outcome. What about the worst car you've owned? Have you had a car that you've gone, I do not ever want to own that car again?
Yeah, the Audi A3. That has so many dramas, that thing. It was like a tractor.
Oh, that's a lot of horror memories, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Best road trip you've been on in the recent past?
Actually, I've got my truck license, and every now and then take the truck to the race events. And we had a good trip coming home from the Grand Prix not that long ago. I had a mate that went two up with me in the truck, and
Nice.
yeah, we just enjoyed the trip back home.
How long ago did you get your truck license?
It would have been the start of last year, start of 24.
Is it a big difference to go from driving a normal car to drive a truck? Because it's a very different way of thinking to drive a truck.
Oh yeah, big time. I think the truck is such a big piece of machinery. It only just fits in the lane, and you have to be so mindful and always on when you're driving the truck because the consequences of things going wrong are pretty big.
What about the gearbox? Is it like a 18 speed? Like, is it a crash
We got an
gearbox?
auto, mate. I haven't got my road ranger license. Yeah, I'm not up for that. I'm just a dumb racing driver.
So that's probably the best thing with a truck. You can go auto and you can get away with it.
Exactly.
All right. What about like pet peeves, like things like stickers on cars or fluffy dice or aftermarket spoilers? Are you for that kind of thing?
All of the above. All of the above.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I think
please don't do it to your Audi, please.
no way. No, my Audi is currently stock. It's got an engine tune and a few performance upgrades, but no shitty cosmetic upgrades. That's
Okay,
for sure.
good. Okay. Are you going to maybe do a few more performance upgrades to it? Like put another...
Maybe down the track, I want to do an air intake and make the engine bay look nice.
Okay.
Maybe some downpipes, but I think we'll have a kid and a baby soon, and I don't want to wake up the baby every time I start the car. So
How long before you become a dad?
2 months.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, very soon.
All right. Who taught you how to drive?
It was a mix between mum and dad. Yeah.
Okay. And what about what's in your glove box? Is there anything that you have something unusual in your glove box that you keep, or is it just the papers and the like?
Just the papers, yeah.
Okay.
Just the papers.
All right. And lastly, do you name your cars like Paul Morris does, like your race cars? And what are your thoughts on people that do?
No, I don't name them. I don't know. I've never really thought much into it, to be honest. So if people love naming their cars, they can do it. But my car's just number one.
Fair enough. Well, it carries number one for a reason. You are the defending
Yeah.
Porsche Carrera Cup Australia champion, so it makes a lot of sense. All right, Harri Jones, this is the reason why we got you on the pod. You wake up one morning and you get a text. So you get into the office like you are right now at your workshop, and you get a text saying, check your bank balance. And you think, oh, come on, this is just a scam. This is something from Nigeria somewhere along the line. But you then get a little bit of curiosity and you decide to check your bank balance, and you suddenly discover that your bank balance has gone to infinity. You've become an instant billionaire and you don't know how or why you got the money. But you then get an email from this mystery benefactor that says you can buy any car, bike or machine that you want, but you're only allowed 3 in your dream garage. So with that in mind, what is the first car, bike or machine you would like to have in your dream garage, Harri Jones?
Ooh, it'd be the Porsche 919 Hybrid Evo. Would be the first one.
The
So that's
Porsche
the race car sorted.
Oh, okay. This is the car that Mark Webber won the World Championship in.
It's actually the evolution of that. So this is the car that Porsche went unlimited in the regulations, and it ended up beating the Formula One car lap record around Spa. It went to the Nürburgring, set the lap record there, and it's just a freakishly fast machine.
Oh my goodness. And I'm just reading up about this. Is back in 2018. So after it finished its racing life in 2017, and of course that particular car won in 2016 for Mark Webber, the World Championship, World Endurance Championship, that is. It went unlimited, so produced 530 kilowatts, or about 710 brake horsepower. It removed the fuel flow restrictions that were put on the engine as per the World Endurance regulations, and the amount of recovered energy that it had was increased from about 6.37 megajoules to about 8.49 for the hybrid unit, and the output of the electric motors went to about 324 kilowatts, or about 434 brake horsepower. So
over 1,000 horsepower.
It's crazy. Yeah, and just bearing in mind here that this particular unit, it's very different to the one that's racing in the World Endurance Championship right now by Porsche Penske Motorsport. But this particular car was powered by a 2-litre V4 engine with a 7-speed gearbox. And then, of course, twin turbo, and it now has 1,000 horsepower, unrestricted. Yeah. It did Spa in 1 minute 41.77 seconds with Neil Jani behind the wheel. Went 12 seconds faster than the World Endurance Spec 919, which it's just absolutely crazy. It's freaky. And then it did a lap of the Nürburgring that year, and it went around the world. And it actually beat the Nürburgring lap record that Porsche did of 5 minutes 19.54, breaking the original record set by Stefan Beloff in 1983, which it did a 6 minutes 11.13 seconds. Yeah. I mean, that car is just an absolute freak of a machine.
Yes. That's the race car ticked. That's car number 1.
Yep, that's really cool.
Yeah. Car number 2 will have to be a weekender road car, which I couldn't really walk past a 992 GT3 RS. So that'll be my weekender.
A Porsche 992 GT3R. I think we've had a few people that have mentioned this. So the 992 GT3 RS. I mean, they are a nice car. There's nothing.
I love them.
And they are of similar spec to what you race as well. So you know those cars quite well. So
I do, yeah.
All right. And what is your third car?
Car 3 would have to be a family car.
Well, given you're about to be a dad very soon.
Yeah, about to be a dad, so a daily driver, and it would be a Volkswagen multivan.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I can go up the beach, it can take kids to school, it can put the surfboard in, your mountain bike in. That's go to the garage, I reckon.
Okay, this is something very different. It's a 7th generation of the old combi van, like the multivan. That's very, very different. So just having a look at the configurations, like they're worth around about, here in Australia, for the base models, around about $69,000.
Yeah.
But just having a look at it, like would you prefer the diesel or would you prefer the petrol or even the petrol hybrid?
Probably the diesel, to be honest. The diesel in the long wheelbase. And there's the California model, I think, as well, which has like a fold out on the side for some shade when you're at the beach, and a nice interior as well.
I can see that there's a very European centric kind of feel to this dream garage. You love European cars.
Yeah, I do love that. Yeah, the German cars, they do something pretty good.
Front engine, front wheel drive, 2-litre TDI 4-cylinder motor. Would you have the 7-speed or the 6-speed?
Probably the 7-speed.
7-speed, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, actually, look, that's pretty decent. I actually like that. And given that, you're about to become a dad, I can see that, Go down to the beach along the Sunshine Coast, put your surfboards in, take the kids. Perfect.
Exactly.
I like
That's
it.
good.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, the Volkswagen multivan, the 7th generation, the Porsche 919, and of course the Porsche 911 GT3 RS and the 992 spec, which is, we've had a few people mention that. But that's, a very, very decent dream garage. In fact, if anything, I'm absolutely impressed that you mentioned the Porsche 919. That's like, I still remember when that car won the World Championship for Mark Webber back in 2016. That's Australia's most recent 4-wheel World Championship win. And geez, it would be nice if Oscar Piastri gets a World Championship in Formula One. It'd be really, really nice. So, mate, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It's been a great pleasure to chat with you, and congratulations on what you've achieved so far. And I hope there's much, much more to come in your career in the future. It's great to see how well you've done, and good luck at Bathurst and also at the Bend Motorsport Park later in the year for Team 18. I hope you do very well, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Like I said in my introduction, Harri's dream garage was very German, heavily influenced by his close association with Porsche. And I have to say, I don't blame him. Everyone loves a 992 GT3 RS, and they are such a beautiful thing on 4 wheels. But the Porsche 919 Hybrid Evo is just something to behold. No technical restrictions, removing key items such as air conditioning, wipers and headlights, and increasing the downforce turn this Le Mans winner into a car destined to shatter lap records. And remember, this very car, in World Endurance Championship trim, not only propelled Porsche to an unlikely win at Le Mans in 2016, but it propelled Mark Webber to his first and only world title outside of Formula One that same year. It's a very special car. Now, since this interview was recorded, Harri's dominance in Carrera Cup Australia continues to roll on successfully. He bounced back strongly at Darwin's Hidden Valley, and despite not winning any of the 3 races, he finished on the podium each time. He returned to the winner's circle at his home round at Queensland Raceway and would go on to win the next 5 races in a row, including 2 at the Bend Motorsport Park. It was also at the Bend where he would make his Supercars Enduro debut with Team 18 in the 500km Enduro, finishing in the top 10 in 10th place with Anton DePasquale. Now, Bathurst awaits, and we wish Harri, Team 18 and Jones Motorsport the best of luck for a successful weekend. You can follow Harri and Jones Motorsport on both Facebook and Instagram, and be sure to check out their respective websites. For Harri, it's www.harrijones.com.au. That's www.harrijones.com.au, and that's Harri with an I. And for Jones Motorsport, it's www.jonesmotorsport.com.au. Whilst you're at it, go and check out their other motoring venture, Jones Motorculture. You can check them out at www.jonesmotorculture.au. We've put all the links in the show notes as well as the Motor Dream podcast website. The website itself is www.themotordream.com.au, where you can listen to past episodes, find more information on each of our guests, and also on the show itself. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram with the handle The Motor Dream, and you can also start a conversation about your dream garage by using the hashtag The Motor Dream, or better still, drop us a line on what your dream garage would be. Our email is themotordream@beastproductions.com.au. Lastly, make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube Music. Thanks for listening, and remember to drive or ride safely out on the roads wherever you go. We'll be back for another episode in a couple of weeks' time, where my guest is journalist, TV presenter, and race driver Keziah Dawn. Until then, happy Bathurst Day, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Motor Dream podcast. This series is proudly produced by Beast Productions.